Last Friday, Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg, chair of the Senate's Environment and Communications Committee, announced an inquiry into the ABC complaint handling system. The announcement infuriated ABC chair Ita Buttrose.
So what we have here really is a partisan political exercise under the guise of using a Senate Legislation Committee for government senators to undermine the ABC's independence. There's no other way that I can take this. Does he agree with the notion of an independent public broadcaster and an independent board? Or does he believe that politicians should be able to meddle in and dictate to the national broadcaster about content? Because that's where this is leading.
Strong words, considering the inquiry is about the ABC's complaint handling system, not the broader ABC operation itself. It is no secret that there have been a string of high-profile reporting errors that have been published by the ABC staff in the last year. This includes errors in the ABC journalists' tweets, which the ABC opted to take legal responsibility for. And many, including myself, find the ABC's responses to these errors wholly insufficient. It's one thing to launch an inquiry into the editorial standards of the ABC, and an entirely different thing to investigate how errors are dealt with. And it is factually incorrect to suggest that this inquiry is in any way the government dictating what content should go to air. Because to make a complaint, that content has to already have aired. And despite all of Ida's bluster, there's a key fact that everyone is missing. The ABC itself is conducting an inquiry into its complaint system. This is at least a surface-level admission that there are issues with the process.
Well, first of all, we're already conducting an inquiry headed up by the former Commonwealth Ombudsman, Professor John McMillan and Jim Carroll, a respected
So an independent
news director.
external inquiry?
That's correct.
Sorry, Fran Kelly, that's actually not correct. The ABC might be billing it as an independent inquiry, but it was commissioned by the ABC and the ABC set the terms of reference. Why shouldn't taxpayers who foot the bill for the entire operation get a truly independent inquiry into the same issue? If you have nothing to hide, then you won't mind answering questions in the Senate. Why all the hostility? Why the need to interview Senator Bragg like this?
You consult about a Senate inquiry with the Communications Minister or the Prime Minister? I'll tell you why I'm asking, Senator Bragg. It's because the Australian newspaper says you went rogue. Did you go rogue?
I'm not sure what you mean about the Senate going rogue. I mean, the Senate reviews government agencies all the time.
OK, well, I'm referring to the report in the Australian, which I bet you read. Did you?
Talk about defensive and unprofessional. Not only that, Carvelis implied that Bragg was unfit to chair the committee because of perceived impartiality.
Given your own complaints about the ABC, Senator Bragg, and public comments, how can you claim to be independent?
Hilariously, the most ridiculous thing to happen from all of this was Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young deciding to get involved. She tweeted, "The independence of our public broadcaster is an essential part of our Australian democracy. It shouldn't be up to politicians to dictate what the ABC can and cannot report on." Oh, Miss Young, I didn't realise you were so passionate about the independence of media. I applaud you. Perhaps now that you've seen the light, you will take down this website, End Murdoch's Media Monopoly. That's right, she has devoted part of her own website to promoting a different Senate inquiry into the media organisations, where she is asking members of the public to submit formal submissions to, quote, end Murdoch's media monopoly. But maybe I'm being too harsh. Miss Young values impartiality so much that when she's actually in the inquiry, I'm sure she acted with complete objectivity, completely separate to her personal views.
Do you believe that last year's bushfires were exacerbated by climate change?
Yes, I do.
Why didn't your newspaper print that?
We did.
What does the headline Dictator Dan mean?
That he's telling Victorians how to live.
Is that not an assertion of his character? How often does Mr Murdoch visit the newsrooms when he comes to Australia? Has there been any reflection within the company in relation to how Australia's first female Prime Minister was treated by your mastheads? Would you support your editors fronting this committee? Accept the criticism that your newspapers have become a blancmange of opinion. Just to be clear, You have no concerns with publishing opinion on the front page as opposed to a straight news story full of facts. Have you seen in your time, Mr Reid, increase of opinion published on the front page as opposed to kept to the opinion pages?
Sarah Hanson-Young, independent always, independent from standards and independent from reality. Now let's bring in the panel. I'm joined by media writer at The Australian, Sophie Ellsworth, and senior reporter at the Australian Financial Review, Michael Rodden. Michael, let's start with you. What did you make of the move to have an inquiry against the ABC, and do you see it as legitimate or do you see it as a political interference?
Look, you could probably go both ways on it. Obviously, the ABC's job is to sort of not only inform and entertain, but also to report robustly on the government. This one's unusual though, because if I'm not mistaken, the complaints about the ABC's complaints handling processes aren't necessarily a function purely of government distress. You know, if you look at the Luna Park documentary series and the complaints about that was mainly coming from, I think, the left side of politics. You know, you had even the former ABC managing director complaining. It seems to have been led by Troy Bramston, who is a Labor man for all intents and purposes. You know, I think if the ABC wants to ensure that there is, you know, continued trust in its brand, that, you know, it should welcome any sort of look at the way it handles complaints, because that's a proper and important way of conducting yourself as an information agency.
Yeah, and look, Sophie, Michael raises a really good point with the Luna Park saga and the reporting, particularly pertaining to Neville Rand, because they actually did commission an independent review, and then the ABC just said, well, we don't accept that, we have a different stance.
Well, the whole problem here really, Jack, is that the ABC Complaints Unit is perceived as them investigating themselves, while the ABC are adamant that it's independent, it sits within the ABC, but it's a separate entity. It does not look good. And then on many occasions when people complain, their complaints are thrown out. I say with this, I don't know why Ms Buttrose came out slamming the government for political interference like she did, because she's actually commissioned an inquiry into this very unit herself. So the fact that the Senate are doing this, I think, says to me they don't have trust in the ABC's independent inquiry that they set up. And I think what's she so concerned about? I mean, if she's got issues with the complaints unit, and they do too, there's nothing to hide. So what do you have to fear? I thought the whole thing was a mass overreaction. And when she accused the coalition of political interference, I thought that was an absolute distraction. So let's see what both inquiries come back with, Jack.